All right, welcome to another live episode of Action Summit with Dubb. We have here a very special guest, Tony. You've been with us for a while, man. We love your stories, we love your energy. And tell us, for the viewers that are brand new, haven't met you yet, tell us about Tony.
So lifelong martial artist, teaching self-defense, and my just some backstory because of the Dubb platform. I needed a way to reach people around the world, and I think I've been with you since about a year before all the lockdown stuff. So I was starting to get in place with that. Our approach to personal safety and self-defense is it's very cerebral, a lot of psychology, a lot of neurobiology, and that language like that can be very daunting in an email. So the ability to, someone get an email from the founder and the researcher, and it was way easier for me, like in typing. Like I enjoy talking and coaching. This is coaching. Coaching is it's like the canvas for the painter. So I loved the app and the usability with the email, and that's how the stuff came together. And then found out after, founder Ruben really into martial arts. So we would have all these like offline conversations where I was going to try and pick his brain about Dubb, and we'd talk about Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do for hours, and then never talk about business. And I think you've got a pugilistic background, boxing and stuff like that. So, but people really don't want to hear about that. I've been in business for 43 years. I'm 61 years old right now. And so I was around doing stuff when you had to write letters, right? And like lick an envelope. And if you wanted to write a letter to Black Belt Magazine, man, I had to write it, go to the post box and mail it. There was no email and stuff like that. So this is all pretty exciting and fascinating to me, and then became a huge pivot and asset, of course, a couple of years ago when the pandemic locked everyone up.
Nice, man. Thanks for that intro. Yeah. So FYI, Tony knows what he's talking about. He's been in the whole growing your business game for quite some time here. So the experience is very relevant. We have a lot of coaches, consultants, and people whose businesses rely on that ability to communicate effectively. We're not selling no shame to anybody out there, but simple stuff. Sometimes it takes a communicative process to articulate value and benefits to somebody, especially the new stuff, right? That's where we're always trying to prospect and bring in the next crop of clients, if you will, and they need to be educated. And one of the best ways we can do that is with video. I think Tony, you had a piece you wanted to share with us on mindset, actually, right? Because this is one of the biggest problems that entrepreneurs face, and we're not getting any help from external sources, right?
Right, and that was you're very carefully dancing around language and buzzwords so we don't get canceled right in the middle of this. And I'll just come out and say it. So part of my research decades ago, this is from the 80s, when I was designing a new way to look at self-defense, and I discovered what I now elegantly, and I say that tongue in cheek, I elegantly refer to as the neurobiology of survival, because neuroscience has revealed in the last 10, 15 years very important things about how we learn, the amygdala, the limbic system, its relationship, courage and fear, how we train signal speed through understanding the neuron and myelin development, and all these cool buzzwords that didn't exist in the 80s and 90s when I was putting my program together. As fate would have it, or I prefer serendipity, all this language explained what I was intuitively figuring out. But the biggest and probably most undervalued component of the research was this accidental discovery of the relationship between the psychology of fear and performance. And I'll fast forward it quickly so that I put it into business sense. But what I discovered in the 80s, that the people who managed their fear managed to fight. We would put on these, like before Fight Club was Fight Club, the movie, We were doing stuff like that in the 80s, and we were videotaping it with VHS cameras. If any of you are older on here, you'll know what VHS is. Some of you won't. You might be borderline, dude. I don't know if you got good genetics and you're older, but
VHS is, yeah.
Okay, good. So, but we were doing crazy things, and you would see like someone come in, he's a boxer or street fighter or doorman, and he'd proverbially tap out like in a scenario. And we were doing jiu-jitsu and sparring. These were scenarios. It'd be like, Darius, go stand over there. 2 role players are going to come up to you. They're drunk on the street. And remember, you need to morally, ethically, legally de-escalate this. And we'd create a whole, almost like a mini play for about a minute before physical shit would kick off. And it was very exciting. We ended up recording 6 videotapes. I went around the world teaching this stuff. This is before the UFC. It was crazy, man. And so I built a whole, like a business empire on that. But the thing that was most exciting, that is only really becoming more and more prevalent and relevant now, was my research on fear. And I created a program out of that called No Fear, but it's spelled K-N-O-W. The idea of leaning into fear and getting to know fear and having fear be our guide and our teacher. Fast forward decades, when the news came out, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And that became 3 weeks and 4 weeks and 5 weeks and 6 weeks. All of my business was live in-person training. Literally within about 4 to 5 months, I had canceled 35 courses, which was close to about $500,000 in potential revenue. And all of these courses were also linked to other verticals in my company. We have an equipment company and stuff like that. I was sitting in this office, in this chair, like this, like doing the math in my head. And all of a sudden, it was like someone stuck a vacuum cleaner up my ass, man, and was sucking out my insides. I put my head in my hands. I folded over. I thought I was going to throw up because I realized I was going to lose everything that I had built over decades. And I could hear my kids running around the house and my dogs. And I remember my wife saying, "Hey, dinner's in 15 minutes. And I'm like, I'm not going to eat. I can't eat. I have no appetite. And I gave myself 24 hours to feel sorry for myself. And I made the joke. I said, too bad you don't know anyone that's been studying the psychology of fear for decades. And I train, just for perspective, and I don't like talking about my background. I don't know if you guys are going to post my bio, but people can go to my website. I work with people who hunt terrorists. I work with tier 1 operators all over the world in friendly countries. I work with SWAT teams, and that's been my business for decades. We also have a program for the general public, and we work with corporations as big as FedEx and Sony over the years. And during the pandemic, one of the teams in Google called me to do a private custom no fear seminar. And I thought it was at first a friend playing a joke. I mean, little side story here, because it was like, yeah, I got a message from Google. They're interested in talking to you. And I'm like, I get on the phone with the guy. I think it's a prank. I didn't really like fact check it. And I said, how'd you find me? Did you Google me? And I was like, and he laughed and then said, well, actually, I heard you talking on a podcast and, but it's just an interesting thing. And now tie this to, like, hopefully your audience listening to this. And the title of this was this idea of how do we choose courage in a world that weaponizes fear? And the government is weaponizing fear. We're supposed to be afraid of everything. There's not one message from the government that said, get some fresh air, go work out, eat good food. Don't live in fear. It's no, live in fear and don't do these things, which even right now, you can go get weed, you can go get booze, but you can't go work out. Almost everywhere in the world, gyms are closed. What is that? The news weaponizes fear. The government weaponizes fear. Now, through osmosis, big fancy word for stuff that seeps into us, through osmosis, we weaponize fear. If you're an entrepreneur, forget the pandemic for a second. I guarantee that you at some point in a certain aspect of life, maybe it was your boxing, people are saying, how are you going to do that? You're not very good. I know, like, oh, you lost your last fight. What are you going to do now? Like people don't understand that you need adversity to self-actualize. And you need, like, if you don't have an audacious goal, like big buzzwords, what is our audacious goal? Like, if your goal doesn't scare you, and I don't like when the gurus say that, because that's unconsciously also using fear in the wrong way. But there's truth to it. I just don't like how ubiquitous. It's just all over the place. It's lost its potency. But this idea, when Dubb asked me, hey, would you talk? And what do you think is important? I mean, there's so many things that are important. I have business groups. I don't like the term mastermind. I don't even know what that means, but I get it. But I've got groups where I'm coaching people on just the idea of this connection. And this is so cool, that whatever goals you have, your vision, your mission, your goals, as soon as you write them down and they become a little bit real, you probably get a little adrenaline dump, am I going to go for this? Am I quitting my job and starting this? Am I going to start a side hustle? Am I going to actually borrow money? Whatever it is you're doing, whatever product or service you're doing, that's part of your goals, your mission, your vision. This concept out of our No Fear program, KNOW, this idea that if I can change my relationship with fear, I can change how I relate to anything. And if I can change how I relate to anything, I'm changing my mind. If I change my mind, oh my God, follow the algorithm, I can change my life. And that sounds like all touchy-feely and everything, but it's literally like the neuroscience of creating a habit. As long as you're not rationalizing, right? Bullshitting yourself on what do you think is important. So you have your goal and you have you. Here's the missing part, and this is why there's so much potency in what I do. And I almost sometimes regret introducing myself as a combatives defensive tactics guy, because then people, like, that's the first thing they hear. And then they think, well, I don't need to learn how to fight. But fucking business is a fight. Life is a fight, right? It's a roller coaster, right? But the big fight, and I'll share, I don't know if you ever read the book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. I don't know if you know the book, great book to read. But this wasn't in the book, but it just, the author, that's a pretty famous book. But Dan Millman, the author of The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, he wrote, if you face just one opponent and you doubt yourself, you're outnumbered. And when I first understood that and heard that a long time ago, it blew my mind, because how many times, whether it's your colleagues, your coworkers, your family, your wife, your girlfriend, I was married to this girl years ago, I went, I'm going to open up my own school. I was working for my dad. I love martial arts, dream of mine. I'm going to open up my own martial arts school. And she just looked at me and she goes, how are you going to do that? And as soon as she said that, I knew we weren't going to make it. I just knew. And a year later, we were divorced. That is self-awareness. So this connection, this is kind of heavy and kind of neat. We need good situational awareness to be successful entrepreneurs. Situational awareness is reading the market. Situational awareness is reading your competition. Meaning situational awareness is, I am situationally aware of what's going on with regard to what's important to me. And again, this is in the context of your product or your service. But it's self-awareness that allows you to clearly access or optimize situational awareness. In other words, if you don't realize that you're suffering from some, a fear-based relationship with money or success or teamwork, or, you've met people that go, I can't have partners. And that's their whole, well, maybe the only way they're ever going to make it is with a partner. What they mean is they can't have shitty partners. But something happened to them. And this is great. I lost a $12 million company in 2010. And I got fucked by, it happened so fast. But I lost everything. It took me 5 years to rebuild. And afterwards, literally for 9 years, if somebody had a business deal with me and as soon as they started talking equity or shit like that, I was like, no, we're done. Even if I was smiling, going, but Self-awareness informs situational awareness. And so the fastest way to understand and improve your own self-awareness, which ultimately is our superpower, if you want to self-actualize as a parent, as a human, you need to have good self-awareness, because you won't know what you're hiding yourself from, what experience. So this is where this whole no fear program, like right now, like I spent my life 43 years teaching physical self-defense. I always had the psychological, the mindset, but in the last couple of years, this no fear program has become a standalone vertical in my company. And now I'm doing stuff in some places that we can fly, I'll fly, but doing like Zoom calls like this, or, in connecting with people, because people who are entrepreneurs are almost right there. Right. And here's an interesting thing. And again, I'm rambling here, which is, there's so many rabbit holes to go in, but when your business clicks, you're no longer an entrepreneur. Now you're a CEO or a founder, right? So the entrepreneur is that person who's always like trying to come up with something new. We always have the entrepreneurial spirit, but if you want to really augment and enhance, you need to self-actualize. The only way to do that is through greater self-awareness, where you realize, wow, this is not my core competency, or this is not what I really want to do. And I just had a meeting with my team today planning for 2022. And I said, guys, this is our vision. This is our mission. And you need to help hold me to it, because I'm the entrepreneur with I got entrepreneurial OCD. I'm like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. But I have enough self-awareness to say to my team, hold me accountable. This is our core competency. This is how we want to change the world. But you understand that every week I'm going to go, guys, what do you think about this? Because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm relying on you guys to help run the company. This is our team. So all of that is built around this no fear, KNOW fear structure, where we have the courage. This is a great line. It's your next tattoo. You can't be brave if you're not afraid. You can't be brave. So a lot of people have a negative relationship to fear. I make the joke that fear management actually needs good management, because when I say, Darius, let's talk about your fear, you're like, no, I'm good. I'm like, because especially guys, especially type A, and all entrepreneurs are type A, someone will either, because marijuana is legal most of the world, smoke a joint, have a beer, have a glass of wine, have a cigarette. And I'm not saying that's not okay to do after a hard day's work, but there's a lot of people that are doing it because it calms their nerves. But you wouldn't have nerves if you didn't have fear. Some fear is good, some fear isn't. But how do you figure that out? So what I wanted to share was just this idea that the goal part of my meaning our business development is our situational awareness. Our self-awareness informs our situational awareness. So if we don't have good self-awareness, we're always like, it's like the money pit. No, I'm putting more money in this. We're not objective enough. Self-awareness informs and inspires that objectivity. Your self-awareness is your inner coach. And this all works, but it's an area that's just never talked about. Everything's always time management and planning and structure, accountability, KPI, ROI, and underneath that, we still have people who are PTSD, suicidal, drinking, overweight, not working out, and they're getting in the way of their potential success because of fear.
I have a question. What is an exercise that someone can do that we can maybe give the viewers to increase self-awareness? Something. Is it a meditation? Is it a thought? What's something simple? I love to give people always one simple thing to walk away with.
Yeah. Well, so I meditate quite literally every day. I won't get out of bed without doing, I actually do 2 to 3 meditations before I get out of bed. One is just because the science of meditating and everything is there. If you say I don't have 15, 20 minutes to meditate, you got bigger problems than the meditation, right? So I do 15 minutes of meditation, and then depending on if I woke up early, I don't set an alarm clock unless I got to catch a flight. But, like today I was up at 5. So I'll do more because I don't want to get to bed so fast. And so I'll do more, but I do a minimum of 2: meditation. And then I do deliberate intentional breathing. Very, very important, especially as a guy. I'm for my age, I'm very fit. But with everything that's going on with respiratory illness, deliberate intentional breathing might actually save your life. And a lot of us just think like, oh, I go for bike rides, I run. That's not the same as working on your breathing. And there's a ton of really good apps that'll teach you how to breathe properly, expand your chest, your back, and breathe properly. And I mean, you can't afford not to do this. It's ridiculous. But that alone doesn't give you the answers, right? So that's almost like saying, can meditation and breathing help me achieve my goals? Yeah, but if you don't actually get on your whiteboard and write down shit and go, that's stupid, and oh, this is good. Wait a minute, this is traction. So how do you overcome fear? Let me share 3 things real quick. One, I said it earlier, you can't be brave if you're not afraid. So it's reframing your relationship with fear. Most of us, when we feel any element of fear, actually back away. And that's a normal, almost human response to, oh, there's fire, we move away. There's a loud noise, we move away. There's the flinch, we want to move away. At a cellular level, we want to move away. So without it causing harm, don't take this literally. In business, in relationships, in communication, if I said to the average person, how quickly can you apologize when you realize you friggin' made a mistake in a personal relationship in business? Well, most people, I would say half people don't, right? It's like, yeah, well, shit happens. And well, didn't you? I thought he did it. We're pointing fingers, we're doing that. It's a hard thing. And I'm a pseudo expert at this. Something will happen with my wife, and I'm like, there's a voice in my head that goes, just go give her a hug right now, give her a kiss and say, I'm sorry, let's not fight. And then part of me goes, well, no, she fucked this up. It was her fault. She needs to and you're going like, no, shut up. Like, it's this battle of ego, of pride, of habit. So, but can you have a conversation with that voice? Right. So how do you create self-awareness? So the secret, the superpower for everybody listening here is how do you improve? What's the fastest way to improve self-awareness? Because that conversation and here, again, when I'm talking to people and helping them through some stuff, they'll go like, I've wanted to say this to my boss or my wife or my kid for sometimes years. Imagine holding that in for years. I quit. You're a fucking shitty boss. I hate this job. Some people will spend the metaphoric 7 years at the wrong place because of fear. So you can't make these changes until you recognize you're in the fear loop. So obviously we have a whole system and program around this that I'm happy to get deeper into, but you can't even consider this if your idea about fear is limiting and therefore flawed. So the first big reframe is you can't be brave if you're not afraid. So it's okay for me, let's say I had to say something fucking scary to you, and I go, dude, I'm so scared. I got to tell you something's been on my mind for a long, long time, and I hope this doesn't affect our relationship, and da. And you're like, dude, fuck, maybe we have a fight, maybe we hug, maybe whatever it is, but now it's out. And what happens when you have that conversation? You're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. I make this joke. What is the way to fear? When you get good news, people yelp and they jump. Oh my God. Medical news, financial news. Hey, your loan was approved. Yes. Hey, doctor's test came back. You're going to be fine. Yes. Right? She said yes. He said yes. So again, what is the way to fear? Fear is fucking oppressive. Now, If I change my relationship with fear in certain areas, fear can now be moved from this anxiety to a fuel that I use. In this metaphor, my body, right? My body's the car, my mind, my goals, my vision, that's my nav system. And in this metaphor, and let's not be contrarian and go, what about Tesla and electric cars? In the metaphor, we're using fossil fuel, guys. Okay. In the metaphor here, my fuel to grow my family and grow my business is fear. Let's do this. Well, I want better for my family. What are we going to do? I want better for my company. What are we going to do? We're going to stay the course and do it the old way? No, the world's changing, So one is you can't be brave if you're not afraid. You got to lean into fear, which means you've got to move outside your comfort zone. Like one of my meetings today with one of my team in the UK, we're looking at a new app, and I go, look, man, I've had apps for 10 years and blown money on them because nobody uses them. And so I've got fear about investing in a new one. And he's very, very clear. He said, you just need to make it SOP, and you can't let people not use the app. You got to make that happen. Otherwise, and it's such an obvious answer, but it was my self-awareness that said, otherwise I'm the CEO that goes, yes, Stephen wants to know if we're investing in that other app. Yeah, tell him I'll get back to him next week. And just keep pushing it off, as opposed to, okay, this is my fear about a new app that you want to bring into the company. So self-awareness, and this is a very cool one, and I think everyone listening to this will relate to this. What is the only resource that we can't regenerate? Our most valuable, important resource, time, right? Good fear management is time management. The longer you're in the fear loop, the longer you're wasting time. Example, Stephen says, I like this app. I tested it out. I had a thing. The licenses are this much. I'm like, I'm going to spend another $1,000 a year for licenses. And so I blow it off. Or I go, wait a minute. And it's not a big deal. It's not like it's not a catastrophic change in the company, but every one of those represents a time suck, a delay. And so here's the language again. Time management and fear management are connected. If I manage any fear I have, I accelerate decision-making. So think about this. Any fear spike creates doubt. Doubt always creates hesitation. Now the clock is ticking. Hesitation creates procrastination. And if it's unchecked, meaning if your own self-awareness regulatory system of going, wait a minute, why did I bite my lip there? Why did I hesitate? Why did I get that butterfly feeling when he said that? If I can't kind of lean into that and assess that, have a conversation with myself and then whoever, I'm in what we call the fear loop. So doubt creates hesitation. Hesitation creates procrastination. Procrastination creates fixation. And now I'm sure you've had people that you've hired and fired where they said, yeah, we'll get this done. And then they missed their deadline. And then when you're talking to them, they're like, well, this happened. We had a delay. And you realize they don't know what they're doing, but they didn't have the self-awareness to say to you like 2 weeks earlier, hey man, I've run into a roadblock. I'm stuck. And so communication is everything, but people who don't have self-awareness and don't understand fear management can't communicate clearly. How would that change all our lives if all of us just all of a sudden understood, we all had like a policy and a principle based on KNOW fear, that it's okay to talk about fear in sales, in business, in objectives, in KPIs, in all of that stuff. So those are the three big ones is fear management equals time management. That leaning into fear is the fastest way to create better self-awareness, and self-awareness informs situational awareness. You can't be brave if you're not afraid. And the people who manage to fight, and the fight here, don't think about it as, boxing or martial arts. The fight is, I got to get up today and I got to battle the news. I've got to lead my team. I've got to battle the market. I've got to battle self-doubt. And all of that is normal. Life is a fucking roller coaster, right? So you just gotta go, okay, yeah, I didn't expect that, but I just got hit with a gut shot. Okay, I'm getting back up.
That's awesome, man. No, the self-awareness piece, I really appreciate that too. It's like, as I grow in my career, in our company, the self-awareness piece comes back. It comes to those moments when you're like, well, that feeling, that doubt, that fear, and the tendency to avoid it, the tendency to say, oh, that makes me feel this way, I'm going to go back over here to safety. And I think that I've learned something here, like this new year coming up, I want to take those moments any time that I feel that uncertainty, that I feel that little twinge, that I'm like, okay, why do I feel that? Let's be aware of that and address that. So, because I know it's happened. I can't think of a specific example, but I know it's happened recently, and I'm like, okay, well, how do I be about that, prevent it from happening, so that I don't
well, and one last thing, just on a personal note with what you said, there are times when you get a fear spike, right? You get a stimulus.
Yeah.
It's an email. It's a call from the bank. It's a call from something changes in the market. The Apple changes something dramatically that impacts Dubb's functionality. Right. You can have a fear spike, but the longer everyone's going, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing, is leaning into fear. And that's how it creates the solutions, and giving everybody we are more creative when we embrace that fear. That's what when you look at extreme sports and the flow states these athletes have, it's because of the danger. You couldn't operate as an extreme athlete thinking your way through some of the stuff. You just got to let that go. So it's the same thing in business and the same thing in life. Is sometimes you got to go in there. But the only caveat, the only thing I would remind people, because I don't like the expression "do something that scares you every day." I get what the meme means, but you know what's scary is also like jumping into a pit of snakes. What's scary is like running across the street without looking both ways. So there's a lot of dangerous things that you shouldn't do.
Right.
So what I talk about is like when you get a fear spike, when I say lean into it, what I mean is also study it, research it, and it would be the type of thing where me, we've talked many times and way longer than 15, 20 minutes and stuff. I hope you feel like if something happened in your personal life and I popped into your head as an expert that might have an answer, that you would feel good to call me and go, hey, dude, I hate to bug you, but this happened.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about this. And that's what I mean by, like, the fear spike doesn't necessarily mean you're like cowering. It's a moment of where you, and for everyone listening, a fear spike, doubt creates hesitation creates procrastination. So I get an email, as a hypothetical example, I get this email and I look at it and it stops me in my track. It's rude, it's disparaging, it's threatening. We've all gotten one or two in our life, but you sit there and you're like, that's a fear spike. I'm not going, oh, I don't know what to do, but it's like, motherfucker. And I start, and then I'm like, wait a minute. Should I send this to my lawyer? Should I show this to my wife? Should I bounce this off my best friend? So I look at it and what's this about and who's it from? And I've done over the years, the example I gave where I said, hey, would you call me or text me if you had a problem, where you went, Tony's life work.
Yeah.
We'll have an answer to this, where it creates a discussion. And what you do when you do that is you're leaning into fear, because you're not avoiding the problem.
Yeah.
Remember, when you avoid the problem, because our psychological relationship with fear is to, like, I'm not even going to look at this.
Scared, yeah.
I got this email from the government. Let's pretend I didn't get it. I got this email from the bank. So managing fear helps you manage time, and time is the only resource we can't get back. That's how potent this is.
All right. Well, that's my takeaway. Some fear management stuff. It's so relevant too, as we're coming up to this new year. A lot of us are hopefully going to take some of those approaches and get into those situations that where maybe we're afraid of some uncomfortableness and manage that fear, right? You use some tools to manage the fear as a motivation versus shying away from your potential and your growth.
Yeah. Listen, there's, if you're in business and you have a family, which I'm assuming anyone listening to your event is in business and has or doesn't have a family,
right?
Like, you're going to have fear. It's part of life. You can't not, right? It's part of life. And there's always, like the Dan Millman quote, if you face just one opponent, you doubt yourself. The first opponent is achieving your goal. And there's like various little battles to win that war. So you go, I'm going to invent this new thing. Well, like everything from market share to funding to partners to all of those things are little micro battles in there. You're supposed to have fear, but you'll get things done faster if you lean into that. So, like everybody moving into 2022, and I'm not a New Year's resolution guy. Like every day I try to become a better version of myself. I'm not going to do anything on January 1st that I didn't do, the day before.
Yeah.
Right. And if you want to be successful, if you're still listening to this interview and you want to be successful, that's how you need to operate. You don't wait for a day.
Yeah. Well, in 6 months, I'm going to change this thing. Yeah, no.
Right.
That we were just talking about that. That's being stuck in this loop, and you have an excuse to get out of it at some point.
Right.
Face it today.
Exactly.
For me, it's just a new quarter. That's about it.
And it's okay to goals. The world does work on a 24-hour clock, and we all agree to a certain date, and so it's okay to have goals and stuff like that. But you personally, as an operator, take care of yourself, mind, body, spirit. But I promise all of you, if you learn to manage your fear, you'll learn to manage any fight. You'll figure out, because you can have physical skills. There's a lot of people that graduated Harvard and Stanford and that aren't successful at business, that aren't successful at life. And I guarantee if you peel the onion, that the greatest obstacle was their self-confidence and i.e. their ability to manage their fear. And in a world, come back to full circle, the title of the course is how do you choose courage in a world that weaponizes fear, is to remember fear's all around us. There's no way it hasn't stained your brain in some way. And so, but the only way to detox is to develop your self-awareness and go, wait a minute, I am fucking scared of this. Right. And it doesn't, and it can be other things, but it's a really cool principle, and it's changing a lot of lives. I had a guy, he's got a really cool podcast called The Secure Dad. And it's a podcast on dads making sure their family's safe, everything from identity theft to house alarms to all. Yeah. He had me on a few years ago, and I've got a digital program called No Fear, KNOW, again, if you Google it. And
I actually have the link there. I want to make sure is that nofearnow.com.
Yeah. You can go there.
The link is in the comments there. Okay,
sweet. And we've got a free ebook that I'll get you the link to, and we can pop that in there. But I have an ebook that I wrote called Making Friends with Fear, and it's free. And obviously, it'll if you don't know that it's going to stick you in my funnel, and I'm going to try and sell you more shit. Then what are you even doing here if you didn't guess that? But listen, the ebook is free, and it you might have a light go on in your head, and that's all. But this guy who had me on this podcast, The Secure Dad, he gets the No Fear program, and then he messages me a week later. He said, "Hey man, I've never really talked about this to anybody, but I've had mild anxiety for years." And I think everyone does with something in their life. I'm worried about, I got 3 kids. How are they going to turn out? Whatever. Oh, I'm in a rocky spell with my wife. What's that? And depending on how much you think about it, like overfixation and your inability to communicate can create a non-clinical anxiety where you're worried. It's called worry, right?
Yeah.
Right? Oh my God, I suffer from worry. Well, every fucking human does, right? So he says to me in this text, I should pull it up, but he says to me, I listened to your program 5 times. I made pages of notes. He says, is it possible? But I think my anxiety's gone. And I answered him back right away. I said, well, if I was your therapist, then the answer is no, because I need to see you next week.
Right.
Because I'm still paying off my country house.
Yeah.
And let me say that because there may be a bunch of therapists on here who just got offended by that.
Right.
I was making a joke. We actually, our program actually is used by professional therapists to help vets with PTSD. The baseline, our cycle behavior, is actually used professionally. We have a program for mental health that uses this for de-escalation in behavioral health issues. So I'm not making fun, but it was a joke I made them, because what I meant by it was this: is that you might need to hear just one thing and you're going, oh my God, that's what I do. And now you can catch yourself. That's the self-awareness piece. So hopefully some of you check it out. Yeah.
It's one message, one time. Exactly. It can happen. That one light bulb moment. You don't need to have a continuation forever. All for it, right? You want to do whatever you want every week, do it. But there's a moment where you can have that one event, one message that kind of triggers something for you. So
it happens all the time. Love it first sight.
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to thank you, Tony, for your time today.
Thank you.
Holidays from my family to yours. And then we'll share the links here, nofearnow.com. Also, check out the ebook. We'll probably post those in the link in the follow-up here. So,
yeah, I'll send you that. I could actually.
I mean, yeah, if you have it here, post it real quick, and we'll pop it in, because while we're in the stream, it'll update all the links at once.
There you go.
Right.
Did that come through? It was in the private chat.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Here we go. And here it is.
I can do it in the comments.
This is the ebook for free. You're going to get value of this. Obviously, it's a lead magnet, but there's going to be something there. Have that moment. Read it.
Oh damn! I didn't realize we were live here.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Did I answer every question? I actually go teach now, guys. So I gotta get going. But I see this. I could have been looking over here at all these messages.
Yeah, I know. All good.
I didn't realize
all
it was live. That's cool.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
See you next time. Thanks, Tony. Again.
Thank you, Dubb. I love you. I love your program. Thank you.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.